People, Deluded, I'm back again. I hope everybody's doing well and safe. Welcome back to the DG podcast, the really and truly podcast, the people's podcast. You know, whatever you want to call it. As I keep saying, and I've probably said in every episode it takes on a new name. Obviously, it's the DG podcast, the really and truly podcast, the Deluded podcast. But whatever the hell you call it, I don't mind. Just as long as you're subscribing on Instagram. I say subscribing on Instagram. I've cocked that up, haven't I, people? I meant follow on Instagram. Let's try and boost me towards 10,000. Obviously, make sure you're actually subscribing on Twitch and on YouTube. Deluded Gooner, taking everything that I've got to do, people. And I'd like to imagine you're subscribed on. If you're watching this, you're subscribed on YouTube. You're following on Apple. You're following on Spotify. You're on the ball. You're supporting the movement. And as I said, people, life could be better. It could be a lot worse. As I sit here, 38,000 subscribers, 600 odd followers on Twitch. Got a lot of good things going for me, man. I'm very blessed to have the community I have and the things we've amassed and stuff, and you lot support whatever I do. And I've told you lot before, I enjoy all the content. I enjoy speaking about anything with you guys because you lot make it so enjoyable. But if you had to press me, while Arsenal is the team I support, and I guess the umbrella kind of falls under Arsenal's young players, apologies for moving the mic, people, I like to talk about the young players and the development the most. And obviously after that, another favorite bit of my content is my podcast, because it just feels a bit more lighthearted, a bit more neutral, a bit more different. I actually really enjoy this, people, so I appreciate all the support. As you lot know, it is a bit bipolar in terms of news filtering and stuff. We'll end it with transfers, as we know, but we might as well discuss the latest things that have been happening. At the time of making this, is 6:52 a.m. over here in the UK. I hope everyone's doing well and safe. As I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and even in some cases, good night. I hope you're doing well and safe. No clue why I have, not that you lot, I don't want to, for the galley, of course, but for the random, I'm sure you don't want to hear it. I don't know why I'm here in shorts, not boxer shorts. I've had a shower. I'm here in shorts, no top, and for some reason, I've got my hat over the headphones. Like, I've got the headphones over the hat. I don't know, I'm inside. Why have I got a hat on? Like, I really am taking this podcast thing too seriously. One sec, folks. As you can tell, the sound probably temporarily sounded muffled up. I just clocked, like, my head is hella hot. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Why am I sweating? There's no need for the hat on, but it is what it is. And I really need to start having coffee before I start this, because I'm sorry for the yawning. I'm going to start with a story which is, I say, ever emerging. We know City, or the league and the UEFA, they've been trying to get City for match fix. When I say match fixing, that's not true. For FFP and all of these sort of things and whatnot. And there's another story developing. As you know, I'm a football man. I leave all this financial manipulation, financial doping, finances in general. I leave it to the accountants and the smart people. I just know football in it. I don't know for all of this and, how much the transfer fee is for all of these players. You don't know me. I don't like the fact that fans are too heavily invested in finances. Like, there's some people out there, there's some guys and girls out there, I bet you they could tell you how much money Arsenal has, how much money United and this team has, why they should spend it, but their own finances at home are poor, are terrible. They're not paying their bills on time. Son's asking for a new jumper, you can't buy it because you're buying a new box of fags every day. So I do find it ironic how everybody's an expert of finances of clubs. Everybody knows what to do with the money for clubs, but certain people within their own reality can't pattern up, so it don't make sense. But I was reading The Athletic today, people. Shout out to Max Slater, the article writer. Apparently, the Premier League probe into Manchester City's FFP claims, its implications for transparency, and what next. Referring to the Premier League's probe into allegations that Manchester City may have disguised investment from owner Sheikh Mansour as sponsorship revenue, allegations the club's chief executive Ferran Serrano strongly denies. Apparently, a judge wrote, "This is an investigation which commenced in December 2018. It is surprising and a matter of legitimate public concern that so little progress has been made after 2.5 years, during which it may be noted the club has been crowned Premier League champions twice. During the same period, City have also been found guilty of cheating on their financial fair play returns by UEFA and thrown out of European football. Obviously, it was overturned by the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Furthermore, they've gone on to win an FA Cup, 3 League Cups, 3 League Cups, and lost a Champions League final as their parent company has brought stakes in 4 more clubs in 4 different countries to bring the City Football Group family to 10. And I mean, we know they've monopolised. And I do think clearly there's good things, there's great things, and there's bad things with that. You know, obviously City, it can help them with young players. They've got a team in France, team in America, team everywhere. Helps them with sourcing the best young players, helps them with bringing in players and selling them, helps with their, you know, their global footprint and their branding. You know, there's all little things. You know, it helps with the development of coaches as well, because I'm thinking a bit ahead. Let's just say Joe Bloggs is a Man City coach. They think he's got potential, but he's obviously not ready to take the top job. They could send him to the MLS, where they've got a club. They could send him to Australia. They could obviously send him to France. And obviously, coaches that have no ambitions to become managers, you know, they can share ideas across the continent and help develop the game. Like, with respect to Australia, I'm pretty sure the development of the game or development of the coaches in Australia is not to the scale of France. So there's little things to learn, or if not on a national scale, just based on what City have. So I quite think it's a good thing, but obviously it's monopolised. Like, I would like Arsenal to have it. I'd like Arsenal to have a team in France. I would like us to have, like what these guys have, an academy in Africa, because we used to be the guys for players in Africa. I know we've got a bunch of African heritage players, but I would have thought you get a team in Metz, like Metz, example, to help with work permit issues for people coming over from Africa. For me, you line up something in South America, or you bridge it, at least you have a Dutch club. So that allows players from from Africa, from South America, from North America, you know, for people that might struggle with work permits, to house them in Holland and exploit that, in my opinion. But moving forward, though, and we're going off topic with that, when you look at Manchester City, they have actually used their time profitably. Well, the article's playing games, because apparently they've lost 125 million in 2019 to 20, but they've certainly packed a lot in. Obviously, there's COVID to play a part. Moving forward, people, you know, as you lot can see, the Premier League are trying to investigate as well, obviously because of the whistle blown through Rui Pinto of Football Leaks, the Portuguese whistleblower. As you lot remember, in November 2018, Der Spiel published a series of incendiary stories based on emails stolen by the whistleblower. Over the week, you obviously saw they claimed that Mansour, a member of the Abu Dhabi royal family and the deputy prime minister of the UAE, had secretly been tapping up the club's revenues via inflated deals with Emirati sponsors. Apparently, he claimed he would then reimburse these sponsors, all of whom have close links to the Emirati government, out of his own pocket. So, I mean, it's probably, you know, wrong is wrong, innit? But I'm pretty sure the people investigating, the UEFA, maybe even the court, all of these guys are corrupt, and they all do fucked things like this in their own sort of ways. I'm not saying they're right, City are right. I'm just saying it's the belly of the beast, you know. You know, there's no honor among thieves. You're all, you know, if it's a poor example, but, you know, if you're selling drugs and then somebody robs you for your drugs, you know, you can't feel any sort of way. There's no honor among thieves. You shouldn't be selling drugs, things that help people to deteriorate themselves and rob them of their senses and just being a decent human. So, you know, it's a bit like that. When you're all doing this mad thing, you can't get upset. You know, I always find it funny when clubs accuse clubs of tapping up their players when you're tapping up the very same players below that. It's a belly of the beast thing. I'm not saying anybody's right or anybody's wrong. You know, I'm pretty sure these are not the first guys in City that are allegedly tapping and messing around with the finances. You know, you see a lot of dodgy dealers from Juventus, from Barcelona, from Real Madrid. You know, I'm pretty sure no Premier League club, excluding City, is 100% clean at all, people. So yeah, people. So it seems like the majority of this is coming because of Sheikh Mansour's got himself in some issues, people. Obviously in relation to spending. Apparently, UEFA announced it would look into allegations almost immediately and opened formal investigations in March 2019. The Premier League has a slightly different FFP rules to the European body. Clubs are allowed to lose significantly more money, for example, but the same principles apply, people. Scrolling forward, people, we all know in February of 2020, City lawyers said this bill had redacted some of the emails and quoted them out of context. The Chamber disagreed and found City guilty of obviously messing around with their accounts to the tune of more than 200 million and failing to cooperate with European football financial watchdogs. Obviously, City were fined 30 million euros and banned for 2 years, which once again, upon appealing 5 months later, apology, you know, a 3-man panel cleared them. This panel decided some of UEFA's case against the Premier League side was time-barred in that event happened outside the governing body's own 5-year statute of limitations, so they managed to bust it. In short, the sport's highest court believed City when it said the schemes that appeared to be outlined in the email were not carried out. While City did not really try to prove their case to UEFA panel, they threw everything they had at CAS, obviously because that was probably upon lawyer advice, people. But when you move forward and you hear about the Premier League investigation, until this week nobody had a clue what was happening with it. In fact, some wondered if the league had quietly dropped it. But then 4 judges appeared on the British and Irish legal institutions website, and suddenly we know quite a lot, says the article. How much? This much. Apparently in August 2019, the league issued a disciplinary complaint against the club and asked City to release documents. The club refused. In October of the same year, the league set up an arbitration tribunal to enforce that request. The club challenged the tribunal's jurisdiction and impartiality. In February of the next year, 2020, the league changed its rules to ensure impartiality, and the tribunal reinstated the demand for disclosure. November 2020, it was the tribunal rejected a fresh challenge from the club, who then filed an arbitrational claim at the company's court. November and December of that year, the tribunal again rejected arguments from the club and issued a final demand for disclosure, and the order was stayed pending court proceedings. This year in March, people, Justice Mulder rejected the club's arguments about the league's tribunal, denied it permission to appeal, and informed City that they intended to publish these decisions. Apparently, City, however, were given permission to apply for an appeal on the publication issue, which City accepted. In April of this year, Lord Justice Miles accepted the appeal, and it was heard on June the 30th by him, Sir John Floakes, and the Chancellor of the High Court, and Sir Geoffrey Voss, the Master of Rolls. And on June 2020, their rejection of City's appeal was published along with Justice Mulder's findings. Absolute madness. Apparently, most of the above, which I spoke about, whether the league can compel City to release documents for investigations and then take the matter to an arbitrational tribunal as per its rulebook, with the more transparent court action being about how transparent this process should be. And it is the last argument that gives this saga its real and wider significance, people. So it's quite of a madness. When you look at it, City spent a year stalling on a request to supply documents and information for an FFP investigation, and then took the league to court, claiming the league's proceedings were biased and illegal. The league changed their process for selecting arbitrationals for its tribute, so that each party in dispute could choose one member from a list, and experts then, those 2 would then be selected. So again, free from bias and ensuring people are impartial. Stuff that, on top of not wanting to release the documents, allegedly Manchester City were scared about, man. And obviously when Man City asked the Court of Appeal to keep all this secret, however, the league agreed with one condition. City let the league tell any other club it was intending to take to arbitrational that the company's court had already backed its approach, so appealing to them was a waste of time and money. And obviously it seems like they've come to an agreement, man, which is quite crazy. So we'll never know. This is something that's probably still gonna rumble on and on and on and on. It seems like the Premier League got scared, in my opinion, and run up to City, people. But when you look at what's next then for this investigation, as judges allegedly pointed out, there really was very little actual information about the state of investigation in their judgments beyond City's steadfast refusal to hand over documents, the league accusing City's procedural challenges as tactical, and a reference to City saying publication would be detrimental, as they were in talks over a commercial deal earlier this year, but that was no longer the case by late June. Apparently what we can say is the league should not run into the same time barrel issues as UEFA has. It has no 5-year rule, and it also has the benefit of additional emails to spill published after City were cleared by CAS last summer. Those emails appear to add more weight to the suggestion that City's main sponsor, Etihad, was substantially reimbursed for its generous support of the club by Sheikh Mansour. It is suggested that the club has flatly rejected and UEFA has not revisited. There are some fresh allegations surrounding the top sponsorships trick in this weekend's Mail. On Sunday, many feel they have seen this before. It's also the case that the Premier League's allowable losses limit, 105 million over 3 years, is about 4 times as generous as UEFA's, and City, once all the permitted deductions are made, might not break that ceiling even if the most serious dispute allegations are proven. What What is more likely is that Man City might eventually be charged with a charge akin to misleading the league or simply failing to comply with FFP inquiry. So again, that one day is probably gonna rumble on and on and on and on and on and on and on. We don't know who's guilty, who's clear and whatnot. I don't like to focus on any of that stuff because it's not irrelevant. It's not relevant to the kicking of the ball on the field, people. I'll leave that to the experts. Staying with things on the field, or at least it should be from a tactical point of view. As you lot have seen, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signed a new 3-year contract to extend his stay as Manchester United manager at least until 2024. Apparently, this new deal contains the option of an extra year for the Norwegian, I assume provided things go well. So it's essentially a 4-year deal. Whatever you say, for the 48-year-old, if you look at it on a blasé one, you could say it's deserved because you could say he's, a club like United, you don't celebrate second. And, the money they've spent historically, they're further away from Liverpool and City than they've ever been. But at the same time, and I don't feel right. As I said, I'm an Arsenal fan, but a club like Manchester United you should never say Manchester United have overachieved. Winning should be ingrained in the club's history as it is. And definitely not celebrating second place, but and definitely saying second place isn't overachieving, but I defo feel they overachieved last year, finishing second, and that's a pat on the back of the players and Ollie, whatever you say. We know defensively they were a bit shaky, conceded a lot of late goals, made games harder than it needed to be, had to really rely on late goal flurries or individual moments of brilliance or 5 to 10 minute stages where throughout the 90-minute game where they might just slap in their goals. But either way, it's a 38-game calendar, and it doesn't lie. You on one hand, you could say they weren't the second best team in England. They did finish second, right? It sounds crazy, but they are, and that's a good platform to build. There's Champions League football. There's talk. I keep saying it, of Oli wanting to move to a more expansive way of football. Whether he's the guy to install that, we're gonna have to see because he's got the contract. Obviously, you're seeing Varane arrive. Jadon Sancho's arrived. Big signing. Varane is allegedly 41 million plus some add-ons. Great money for the 28-year-old. Obviously, he probably is going to get a generous signing on fee, some generous bonuses, and also the length of contract will be generous, which again is the paying cost. He's a proven winner. So Ollie's being quote unquote backed in the market. I still think what will let Man United down currently is their midfield. I think they've got a good platform to build upon in defence. I think there's an elephant in the room to be addressed with Dean Henderson and De Gea. I don't think they could do what happened last season, of it's two men fighting for the spot. Obviously, you want that, and it is, but I think someone's got to be made the number one, and it's theirs to lose. As you've seen, you can't really keep two goalies. Chelsea tried it with Courtois and Czech. Something had to give. Obviously, Dean Henderson and De Gea. We've had Leno and Czech as well. There's been a couple examples of things. PSG, Navas will probably move on or might accept being second choice. So I think there is some, if they bringing in players is one, they bring in players, and I accept that he wants to be a more attacking brand of football. United could be a problem next season, especially if they add, but I think they need to pattern up the midfield. Even with Paul Pogba, they need, for me, I think Fred and McTominay, they're squad players at best. They're not levels in it. I think they need a real six. Someone that can do what them two do, but offer something in the middle of the park and be a good partner for Pogba, assuming Pogba stays. Now, if Pogba leaves, then there's an issue because there's something to be said. You could have a six, you could have Pogba, and you could have Bruno. Potentially, that achieves a lot of balance. Pogba leaves, then for me, you've probably got to bring in a number 6 and someone who can do what Pogba does, or you have to bring in two other sort of midfielders, deep line playmakers, and give Bruno a quote unquote, not a 10, but a free role. He still has to defend, but he's, of the midfield three, he'd have the most attacking responsibility and the less defensive. Still needs to defend, you see what I'm saying? So I think the midfield, the midfield is going to obviously harm their ability to get it to their front men. They've got some tasty options. Martial, if he stays, the young Greenwood, Rashford, Jadon Sancho, all of these sort of guys. In defence, they've got good pillars. Wan-Bissaka can improve going forward, but I don't think he's as bad as man make out. And Oli has to allow relationships to build in that team now. Obviously, I think in the Premier League, and I'm not saying United or anyone doesn't need to spend money, but in the Premier League, the very first thing is money, money, money. Like, we live in a world, you spend 50 plus million on a striker, it doesn't work for 1 year, you can sell a man. And that's the belly of the beast. But same way, you need to work with what you've got. If Oli is going to take Man United back to the pinnacle and, like he did last season, finish second, got Champions League and got to a Europa League final, which, they should have won. He's got to find relationships. Like I said, if Pogba was to stay, Pogba and this new midfielder with Bruno in that midfield, the left winger and Luke Shaw keep going from strength to strength, developing Jadon Sancho and Wan-Bissaka's relationship down that side. Harry Maguire and Varane in the spine, because the defensive pivot, the partnership hasn't always been there. Bailly's a bit unorthodox in how he defends, and because of his injuries, is probably not a reliable option like that, even though I do think he's a decent defender. Lindelof's a bit hit or miss. Sometimes he's up for it, sometimes he's not. Varane, I don't think Varane's world class anymore. I think he's not the Varane of yesterday, but I still think he's a quality player. I think his stock has fallen in the last 12 months. He had a tough Euros, he's had a tough season, but I still think there's a lot in him. I still think he's got a lot to give. Yes, he's a Premier League, he's a, World Cup winner, Champions League, all of this. He's had a great career at Madrid. All of that is relevant, but I don't really care about that. I still think he's a competent player. I think him and Maguire could be a good partnership. Maguire will probably, again, communicational barrier might be there, but Maguire strikes me as the more vocal one. Varane's more leading by example. Not saying Varane doesn't open his mouth. What I think is Varane needs an enforcer next to him. As you saw in the Euros, him, Kimpembe and Lenglet, none of them, they're not bad defenders, but none of them can marshal the defensive line and be the alpha male out of all of them. So it was the blind leading the blind sort of thing. I think at least Maguire will take a bit of charge. And I think at 28 years of age, they're prime ages, Obviously, as a centre-half, you can play forever, really. And I'm sure United will pick up a couple of younger players along the way. But that's a decent spine, 28-year-old centre-half, 25, 26-year-old Luke Shaw, similar age in Wan-Bissaka. Midfield midfield's the only place I look at it, man. United and say, yo, what's going on there? Obviously, apart from that in goal, but Dean Henderson and De Gea, I think they're two good keepers. I just think if United don't fix that midfield, and it doesn't have to be for big money signing, a lot of it has to be with coaching. How, if it's not gonna be Pogba, how this, let's just say a number 8 and the 6, how they work together with Bruno, how Bruno ties in, that midfield is gonna make the difference, because United can't go into the next season doing what happened last season, conceding cheap goals, going behind unnecessarily, having to do the comeback king sort of stuff. And, sometimes they won't play well for 90. There might be a 10-minute flurry. They're quality, Pogba, Bruno, Greenwood. Man, they're just doing a madness. I think United fans will be honest with themselves and listening to this thing. They'll know that they need to pattern up with that. And I think they've got a good squad. There's a lot more quality to add. I do think there's one too many squad players. And I just think you add a bit more quality, it then becomes a problem of depth for United, because obviously, as you know, throughout a season there's injuries, and United are playing a lot of football next season. They're in, you got the two domestic, the cups to come. You got FA Cup and League Cup, 38 games in the Premier League. However you want to go in them competitions, then obviously you've got the Champions League. If United do what they did last year and get demoted to the Europa League, there's even more games. So I don't know if Ollie's contract's deserved or not deserved. You'd have to speak to United fan, I don't think he's the man long term, but at the same time, why isn't he the man? Because, he's overachieved with their team. If he does really want to improve defensively, and he does, do the things I've said, there's no reason that he doesn't deserve to keep his role. Yeah, he's not a manager of Sir Alex Ferguson or anyone, that carries a swagger or is known for anything notoriously, but it is what it is, man. In that regards, really and truly. So yeah, man, congrats to Ollie and things like that. Moving away from that, from the two Manchester clubs and things like that. Make sure you check out my other live streams. I'll probably be going live at 11:30 a.m. today. And obviously yesterday I did an Arsenal live stream, and I did a neutral one focused around the transfer stuff going on. Chiesa, Varane, Kane. All of these sort of things going on. Obviously off field as well, we spoke about Ryan Giggs and Joey Barton. Absolute wrong-uns, the wrong sort of wrong-uns. Disgusting behaviour what they're doing. And we covered Wayne Rooney as well, people. We'll get on to Wayne Rooney in a second, really and truly. Ironically, let me actually, I think I've got it here. I actually need to make the screen, the images smaller so I can actually see what I'm reading to you lot. But as you lot know, Wayne Rooney, for me, for someone who's, listen, it's not funny in it, but it is kind of funny. Like, Wayne Rooney is just doing a lads thing. He must be one of the best managers to play for, and his name's in the headlines too much. It's his first full season, I believe, as a Championship gaffer. He's not said he'll walk from Derby, but he said there's not a lot of players. You'd expect most people to be working in pre-season. After a friendly, he found time to go out and stuff, and I'm sure you all saw, depending how you look at it, disturbing or whatever scenes with Wayne Rooney, with slightly younger girls to taking pictures of him. He looks like he's falling asleep. It's after party gone wrong in it. He's fully realised he's not 18, 20 anymore. He's not one of the young boys anymore, sort of thing. And I just think Rooney's in the headlines for no reason. Like, even in today, you're seeing Jason Knight, he's out for 12 weeks after a tackle from Rooney. You know, obviously tackles happen in training. There's nothing, well, there is something wrong with it, but there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just a next headline that your name's there, and I'm sure Derby fans are sick to their stomach of this, especially if the season doesn't hit off. But apparently, Wayne Rooney's representatives have contacted the police over what they believe was an illicit attempt to entrap the Derby boss with a range of explicit photographs. So yeah, them girls better off. They should have signed their NDAs, or Wayne Rooney should have taken phones and put them in a drawer, because now they're probably going to get hit with the liability bag in it. So I hope it was worth it, man. I mean, they look like young, impressionable 20-odd girls, 20-odd aged girls. What do you expect they're going to do, the Snapchat and all those sort of things? And one looked like they farted on Rooney, which looked a bit disturbing. But anyways, these images I'm speaking about went viral on social media on Sunday, appearing to show the former Man United and England player asleep in a hotel room surrounded by a group of young women. There's no suggestion that Rooney acted inappropriately or even that he was aware of what was going on around him. So was he drugged up or alcohol, off the alcohol? Was he just sleeping? Allegedly, people close to Rooney have confirmed to Sky Sports News that the matter has now been handed over to Greater Manchester Police, who have yet to comment. And maybe this is saving face. And the one people I feel sorry for is obviously his long-term wife that's been with him from the start, who now is probably fielding a lot of calls from her friends and family and everyone else, and their kids. Now, I know it's summer holidays, but these lot have friends, and, you know, kids can be quite evil. And, you know, in the best of days, we're all prisoners in our own homes now because of lockdown and things, you know, and things like that. I know things have started to open up, but more, you don't want to see any of this, really and truly. So yeah, focusing on on-field battles, from one England international I actually like to one who was a quality defender, but one obviously after the racist thing I haven't got much time for. Let's keep it short and sweet. John Terry allegedly has left his role as Aston Villa assistant head coach after 3 years working for Dean Smith, and obviously the 40-year-old former England and Chelsea skipper. Obviously, you know, he done well at Villa. He joined as a player, he got his coaching badges, and he now looks like he's going off to take the next step, wherever that is. Allegedly, he said, "My immediate plan is to spend some quality time with my family and thereafter hopefully take some invitations to visit clubs and managers around Europe to develop my aim and objective to become a manager. It has always been my ambition to move into football management, and providing the right opportunity presents itself, I feel ready to take up such a challenge." And I would say good luck, but I wish the worst on you, my brother. But anyways, moving away from that, and like I said, one coach left one role, another coach has left, as Arsenal assistant coach Albert Stevenberg has left his position as Welsh assistant coach to focus on his responsibilities with the Premier League club. The Football Association of Wales on Monday confirmed his departure from the national setup. Allegedly, the 50-year-old was appointed to the role by Ryan Giggs in 2017, having worked with him at Manchester United. The Dutchman remained a member of Robert Page's coaching staff as he deputised for Ryan Giggs, who again is in the headlines for the wrong reasons, headbutting his wife and throwing her out the hotel room naked. He deputised for Ryan Giggs as Wales boss during the Euro 2020 or European Championships, obviously in which Wales reached the last 16, folks. Now, there's going to be a lot of nonsense where the VAR is concerned, people, and there's going to be a lot more drama and things like that. There's a number of new laws coming online, allegedly, people. Apparently, Premier League VARs are set to use thicker lines in games this season to determine marginal decisions. An agreement to use thicker lines followed a presentation by the PGMOL, Professional Game Match Officials Limited, referees Chief Mike Riley, to clubs at their annual general meeting in June. There's apparently, I haven't got it to hand, but there's apparently Premier League managers and things are apparently meeting in relation to COVID passports as well. As we know, probably from October, you know, you ain't going to really get to go to football matches and pubs and all of these things if you haven't got these quote-unquote COVID passports, haven't been vaccinated and things. You know, they can't force you to do it, but they can make your life unbearable. You know, they're going to make it, you can't fly out, you can't do this, you can't do that, to the point where people are like, F it, let's get it. Which, again, I think it should be at people's discretion whether they want it or not, really, especially as we're learning not just a lot about this virus. It feels like this medicine has been put together, and, I do think they haven't even advertised it well, because there's this logic that you take the COVID vaccine and you can't catch COVID, and then people catch COVID, and what does that lead people to say? Oh, it's a scam, the government, the Illuminati, 5G, where no, once again, when it's all said and done, especially in England, the government, I would like to say they've got a lot to answer for, but the individuals will not be there. There's a lot to answer for with how they've handled COVID, with how they, every day you're seeing MPs speak about Boris Johnson and reveal what he said. It's quite disgraceful, and I think it's a lesson that the government do not care about you. But less conspiracy theorists, DG, and more football people. Apparently, the PGMOL hopes the change will give the benefit back to the attacking team after the Premier League clubs gave feedback in a VAR survey last season. Apparently, according to lawmakers, these laws don't, however, specify maximum thickness for the lines under laws of the game. This should rule out incidences where a player's toe has led to a goal being ruled out, cases which many fans, players and pundits felt were ruining the game. Apparently, it is as of yet unclear how thick the lines will be made, or whether the Premier League will follow the Dutch Eredivisie model, where if the final red and blue lines are touching, the original on-field decision remains. In that case, the word thicker would actually be misleading. What this hopefully means is the final image produced by VAR will be conclusive to viewers' perception. As we know from the 2 years of VAR in the Premier League is everything. I still think there'll be a lot of division, because again, I'm being a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think they want this to get right. I think one beautiful thing about the Premier League is that, Man City could be playing Liverpool. They're both fighting for the Premier League. And, one of them could beat the other team 5-0. And then the next week, a team, Brentford, might get promoted, and then, like you saw with Aston Villa, well, they weren't promoted, but smacked up Liverpool. Brentford might smack them up 3-4-0. And I think when you add the randomness together with the VAR and the conscientious moments and the talking points equals viral videos equals engagements. I think the Premier League like this. I think they like it. I think they don't want the right decisions. I think they love it, personally. That's just me. I don't think they want the right decisions. I think they tell you that, but, it drives up interest and it keeps Premier League being number one amongst other things, people. And this just confuses people. Man are talking about thicker lines and that, Only time when I talk about thick things is galley and that. But anyways, people, it's a bit poor. And then when you move on to armpits and offsides, apparently, that's FIFA's clarification. Apparently, accidental handball in the build-up to a goal will no longer be deemed an offence. The crucial word here is build-up. It will still be an offence if an accidental handball directly creates the chance that scores the goal itself. There's also new language around how a player makes their body unnaturally bigger in a handball situation. The new language is a player is considered to have made their body unnaturally bigger when the position of their hand/arm is not a consequence of or justifiable by the player's body movement for that specific situation. By having their hand/arm in such position, the player takes a risk of their hand/arm being hit by the ball and being penalised. So yeah, it's quite confusing, people, but this obviously means the handball law no longer specifies that a particular position or anything other than a standard silhouette of the body is considered unnatural, people. So yeah, more, and there's probably a bunch of rules. So again, confusion. As I said, they love it because then they can get when they have BT, which everyone has to pay for and whatnot, and I'm sure BT play Premier League the rights. You rule out this referee, who's given a lot to the game and refereed for more years than the young fans have been alive, and then he comes and blurs the lines and provides an equally different but equally as confusing perspective. Then you've got the pundits raging. Then you obviously have the natural emotions of the players of both teams, whoever benefits or doesn't, and the managers and things. They like this talking points. They love it. They love it. They love it. There needs to be balance of common sense to go with it. They love it. They don't want to fix this, I'm telling you, people. But moving away from all of that, though, folks, it is what it is in that regards, man. What else is there to speak about? I actually think I've spoken about everything so far, folks. A rather humongous sort of one, people. Allegedly, Chelsea goalkeeper Kepa has apologised to Surrey over the 2019 Carabao Cup final confusion, which he looked like he failed to be subbed. For extended comments, go on the player tribute, but allegedly he said, "I tried to signal that I was okay and that I wasn't injured, but we were at Wembley in front of more than 80,000 people. So of course Surrey didn't understand me. When the fourth official raised the board, clearly I should have come off, and I'm sorry I didn't. I was wrong, and I'm sorry everyone who was involved for Sarri, who it seemed like I had undermined in public, for Willy Caballero, a teammate and a great professional, and for all my teammates and Chelsea fans who had put up with everything, all the noise that was generated during the game and in the days after. That's what he said. So it is what it is in that regards, folks. To wrap up this podcast, I think we need to get into the transfer news. As I said, Raphael Varane is all but a Manchester United player and a fantastic signing, in my humble opinion. As I said, Manchester United agree fee for Real Madrid defender. He's joining for an initial fee of around 34 million people. Final details are still to be agreed, but the 28-year-old told Real Madrid he had no wish to extend his current contract. The deal for Varane is likely to reach 42 million with add-ons, so that makes it even more of a steal. Certain man paid 50 million for Ben White after one season in the league. Hope it works out. Apparently, the payment has reduced the fee United will pay. United will pay for the player. I think that's obvious. Apparently, Real Madrid have made a solidarity payment to Raphael Varane's previous clubs for their part in his development. So, Lens stand to make a decent profit after, obviously, they got the initial fee. Because remember, Man United did want to go for Varane, and they've got him, what I'd say, 10 or so years later. And he's played for two of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest clubs in the world, you know. I know it's not the Man United of previous. It's not quite the United that wanted him under Sir Alex Ferguson. But financially, it's going to be a fantastic move. 28-year-old, you're playing for a big club. I'm not saying Varane wasn't a leader, but I've never looked at Varane at Real Madrid as the leader. Do you get it, people? It's like you've had historically Marcelo, Benzema, Modric, Kroos, Ramos. You know, I'm not saying he's never been a leader, but he's been playing well, but he's never been the leader. At France, he's obviously there, but you had Pogba, you had Kante, you had, based off the World Cup, you had Giroud, you had Griezmann, you had all of these guys. Even in the last Euros, he didn't do much. Do you get it? At United, he's the leader. Do you get it? Like I said, Maguire's going to be the vocal one, but man are looking at Varane to be a leader. Sad thing about Premier League fans is that, they're not going to care that. They're going to see it. It happens with everyone. It happened with Ozil, it happened with Pogba, it happens with Varane, it happened with Havertz. When guys are playing week in, week out and you're watching them, it's not that they're not as good as you think they are. They're not as invincible, as immortal as you think they are. Like, obviously, when I hear Varane or top-class players or even Sergio Ramos, if he can name Premier League, I assume you're Thanos, basically, because you're a top player. But then you might see little bits in their game where they struggle with. And I think, for me, Varane's not world-class anymore. But that doesn't mean he's not a world-class player. I just think he's gone off the boil. I do think he's struggled a bit. But sometimes a new environment can change. And he's still, for me, going to be one of the best centre-halves in the league. He's still a good centre-half, a quality centre-half, a top centre-half. But he's going to be a leader. Man are looking at you as, World Cup winner. Played in Euros. Real Madrid. This is a naive, I would look at it, United side. It is quite naive because, Luke Shaw's coming into his own and he's a good player, but he needs a bit of confidence. Lingard's there is a bit of a confidence man. Wan-Bissaka's still learning the tricks and trades of a centre-half. Maguire's been around the block at Hull and whatnot. De Gea's been around the block. Henderson is still learning. I'd say Bruno Fernandes, while he's been at Sporting and played for his country, he's still quite immature compared to his age. That's why he got rubbed out for Portugal. He's still learning. I don't know what they're doing in the midfield. You've got a very young... I don't want to keep saying young, but, Rashford's footballing IQ is probably behind what I'd expect it to be. Not his ability. His ability is top. But he's still learning. Greenwood is a young G. Diallo's there and there's a couple other youths. So he's going to have to be the guy. You can't... I always say you can't look at him to change everything. You can't look at him and go, Mr. Real Madrid, he knows what Man United of old used to be. He's going to change it. He can't improve the defence alone. He can make a difference because he's a quality player. But United's defence is only going to get better if Oli can tie in a good partnership between him and, I assume, Maguire, or Maguire and someone else, or Varane and someone else in the event that either gets dropped due to injury or whatever. Improving, Wan-Bissaka and whatnot. He can help change and be a positive example, but he can't change it alone. So it's a quality signing and a decent, United have mismanaged. For a 28-year-old for 42 million, I know he's probably going to be on big wages, but for United, it's like, I don't think it's a bad signing unless it doesn't work out. United have, 80 million on Maguire, 50 on Wan-Bissaka, even though I'm doing Wan-Bissaka dirty because I think he's worth it. Historically mismanaging finances. Pogba. I'm not saying Pogba's a flop, but I'm just trying to paint a picture. Martial, Ballon d'Or clauses and everything. He's probably further away than when he joined. This is, they've done a lot worse. This is, I wouldn't say it's exit proof and things because it is an expensive deal. Money's money, but I think Varane's going to be a quality signing, people. 78 caps for France as well. Like, he's a big signing, but he can't change it alone. As you lot know, Lemay, for Spurs, Son has signed a new deal. That's a good signing, especially as Kane drags his feet. They've signed Sevilla's Brian Gill, who was on loan at Eibar last season. He's a 20-year-old. He made 14 appearances for Seville, all as a substitute. I think he's a very good player. He's going to have to improve a lot physically anyways, but especially in joining the Prem. But he can, he can take on a man. He can link up. He plays with his head up. He's a decent player. He's capped 3 times for Spain. He's got a lot of development to do. And I don't know when his Spurs career will get going because he's participating at the Olympics. But he's quite a good signing, people. For me, he's a very good signing. Lemaine's gone the other way, people. So that means, when you look at it, Ericsson, Soldado, Paulinho, Capoue, Vlad Kirikes, Chadley, and obviously Lemay are the players that were all signed with that 85 million that let Bale go. Bale's probably been more of a success than a few of them, really. He's now gone. It's a bit deep. He scored one of the goals of the season against us in the game they lost, and he's gone. Like I said, Brian Gill's got a lot of development to do, people. He played for Eibar last season as they finished bottom of the table. 28 games, 4 goals. Now, in a more attacking team, you might see a lot more out of him. He's one for the future. He's one that they've got a coach, but he's a good signing, in my humble opinion, people. For what it's worth. I hope you've all seen as well, off topic, but apparently PSG forward Neymar and Barcelona have settled their legal dispute, people. They've reached an out-of-court agreement with their former player to end a legal dispute in an amicable fashion, people. Apparently, Neymar claimed Barca refused to pay him 37.2 million owed in royalty bonuses after his 200 move to PSG in 2017. Obviously, there's been legal proceedings and things like that. Apparently, Neymar was ordered to pay Barca 6.1 million last June, but reports said he had appealed against the decision and launched a new case, which is now void. Apparently, a statement said, as such, a transaction agreement between the club and the player has been signed to end the legal cases that were pending between the two parties. So nice to see they've come to an agreement, people. But going back to transfer news, when we look at it, we've spoken about Man United, but it seems like one centre-half in, one centre-half out, because Axel Tuanzebe, 23-year-old, apparently Newcastle are pushing to sign him, and they want allegedly Maitland-Niles, Axel, Joe Willock, Conor Gallagher. They're trying to use the top clubs into their benefit. Aaron Ramsey will be 31 this year, and he's on a big contract at Juventus. Apparently, that hasn't deterred Juventus as they are keen to sell him this summer. He's seen as a burden on the club's finances. And another example in world football of how a free transfer can be very expensive. As an Arsenal fan, I know it. I've seen it. Mkhitaryan, Willian, Kolasinac. We don't learn our lessons. And Aaron Ramsey's agent played a blinder. As you lot know, Ben White is expected to have his medical tomorrow, which is Wednesday, ahead of completing a £50 million deal to Arsenal from Brighton. Apparently, Man United are prepared to listen to offers for 8 members of their side: Martial, Dan James and Phil Jones. I mean, I'd take Martial. I mean, how much do they want? It does seem like I wouldn't want to sell him because if someone gets injured, but it does seem like something's got to give, You've got Diallo, who, if Diallo goes on loan, something could be said, but guys that if I'm Man United, I would take seriously and look to use in no order: Martial, Diallo, Greenwood, Rashford, Sancho. That's 5, and at best 3 man can play 4 if you force it and put Greenwood as a 10 and that. Something needs to give in it. I think you need a squad, because suddenly if something happens to Rashford, then you've got other people. But I get it. They've probably done the Martial thing. It's been a long one of dramas. They might want to keep it moving. For me, Dan James should never have been at Man United. He's not good enough. He had okay Euros. Sell him. Leeds will keep trying to buy him. You can make your 15, 20 on him, which I think is a fleece. He should not be at Man United. He hasn't got the confidence to play for Man United. He hasn't got the ability, and he's too one-dimensional. Beyond being a squad player, I don't see how Dan James is part of it. But again, Ollie knows more about football than me, and he uses him. So it is what it is, people. They're prepared to listen to offers for Jesse Lingard, who signed a new deal, and apparently he'll only leave if the right offer goes, people. Apparently, De Gea could also leave on loan or permanently, along with Paul Pogba, Martial, Pereira, Brandon Williams, Jesse Lingard, Alex Telles, who they basically just signed, Phil Jones, Delot. are all available, people. And saying Axel Tishebe could go if right offers are there, as well as Dan James. Lukaku is happy at Inter Milan, and Inter Milan have said they're not selling him. You've seen the statement, despite interest from Chelsea. Crystal Palace are close to completing the signing of 25-year-old Lyon and Denmark defender Justin Anderson, who had a spell on loan at Fulham last season. So I'm sure he wouldn't have to change too much of his living arrangements, or maybe get a permanent yard. That would be a very good signing for Crystal Palace. You know, Anderson and Gerhi, that seems to be quite the rebuild for Crystal Palace, really and truly. You know, they got some good signings, and Vieira's there, so I'm hoping they can do all the best. Apparently, Aston Villa are to bid to sign Bayern Leverkusen's Jamaican winger Leon Bailey, but it has been complicated by interest shown by Everton, Wolves, Southampton and Leicester, and he could be available for 30 million, the 23-year-old. I need a Jamaican in the Premier League. He'll be the best winger in the Premier League, such is my shamelessness, if he does sign, so hopefully that's being done. Spurs are being linked with some very good signings, and I've told you that Patrici guy that they've signed will get them some good sourcing signings and things like that. Allegedly, they want to sign Christian Romeo, 23, from Atalanta, the Argentine centre-half. Quite decent, to be fair with you. Juventus have told Cristiano Ronaldo they expect him to stay at the club this season. Barcelona's better yet, Antoine Griezmann is open to a wage cut, and we've seen João Laporte said all possibilities are open with Griezmann. However, they're yet to receive any contacts from clubs interested in signing the French forward. Shaqiri apparently looks set to leave Liverpool this summer, with Lazio and Napoli keen, and apparently the 29-year-old winger has told them he wishes to leave. Arsenal are considering a move for Portuguese winger João, who's 18 and is available for £1 million. I'm sure I've seen him play for Portugal at youth level. West Ham are keen on Denmark defender Larsen, 30-year-old, who's in the last year of his contract at Udinese. Arnautovic will arrive in Italy this week, completing a move from Chinese side Shanghai Port to Bologna. Leeds United and Crystal Palace are interested in signing Chelsea and England under-21 midfielder Conor Gallagher on loan. Arsenal and Ajax goalkeeper Runarsson is set to join Turkish side Atalaya on loan for the rest of the season. Japanese striker Moto of Newcastle, 29, is in talks to join Greek side Salonika after spending last season on loan at Eibar. Sam Vokes, 31-year-old, is being close to being signed by League One side Wickham. And finally, Stoke are interested in signing 23-year-old Keenan Davis from Aston Villa on a loan deal, folks. So there isn't too much popping in terms of transfers. Hopefully Arsenal can sign a right back, a centre midfielder, and get the Ben White deal completed. If you're Chelsea, I know you want a striker. You know, Chiesa, Liverpool did bid for Chiesa. If you're Liverpool, you want to see more of that. So it is what it is. We've spoken about Manchester City's probe. We've spoken about, Kepa, we've spoken about the new Premier League rules, we've spoken about Rooney, we've spoken about a lot of things. I didn't think we'd be here that long, people. Nonetheless, we've made it work, and it's been a fantastic podcast in this 40 odd minutes. As I said, I'm probably going to be live at 11:30 a.m, so please make sure you're heading over to my YouTube, Deluded Gooner, and subscribing. Check out the DG merch. Obviously, I always stream on Twitch at the same time as YouTube, and there's a lot of Twitch specific content I'm coming with and started already. Like, for instance, Q&A show for the members of my people that are members, and you'll have 2 Q&As. But obviously, if you don't get the opportunity to ask me questions, subscribe to me on Twitch, and that will be your opportunity to do such, people, on Friday. Pardon me. So yeah, Deluded Gooner on Twitch, Deluded Gooner 04 and everything, people. Dgooner 04 on Snapchat. All information in relation to all the socials are in the description of this video. Podcast, same way I tell you lot about the topics. It's been a fantastic pod. I'll see you lot in relation to the pod. I'll see you lot on Friday. Big up all the Spotify and Apple gang, because you lot are probably listening to this before it's gone on YouTube. Shout out to you freeloaders on YouTube. Either way, I'm happy to have you lot here. As I said, I'm always thankful for the support that you guys give me, the positive comments, the constructive criticisms, the encouragement, the level of support. You lot always tell me how the content I do always provides value, and that makes me feel like that provides value to me. It's a mutual exchange, knowing we're all benefiting each other. So like I said, it's been a fantastic pod. I'm gonna love and leave you. I'm not gonna keep you lot here any longer. Please make sure you've hit the like buttons, you're following on all the socials, you're doing what you need to do. It's Tuesday, so please make sure you're moving that much closer to your goals, dreams, hopes and aspirations, and I'll catch you lot on Friday. People, Deluded. I'm out. God bless. Wishing you abundance of riches, people. Physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, and the rest of it. I hope you have a great day and a great end to the weekend in whatever you lot are doing from now till Friday. And like I said, I'll buck you lot on Friday in relation to the DG pod. In the meantime, there'll be a bunch of other content on YouTube and Twitch and such. Go and check out the other DG podcast episodes if you haven't. Go and check out the YouTube content and whatever. I keep saying I'm gonna go. I'm really gonna go now. People, Deluded. God bless. Thank you for having me. And once again, good morning to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Bow.